masses take his mark, but leave the lie to chill their hearts. They'll know the time has come to seal their fate. Those who cling to the cross will refuse and pay the cost. God redeems his own from the sea of hate. Which way will you choose? Which way will you choose? You've got everything to gain. You've got everything to lose.
For many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and kill you, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And then many will be offended, will betray one another, and hate one another. Then many false prophets will rise up and deceive many, and because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. But he who endures to the end shall be saved.
School districts across the state work with a lot of colleges and universities to recruit and train teachers.
I think it's a really good time for us to take a moment and really pause about where our values lie.
But there's one relationship coming to an end. The Washington Elementary School Board in Glendale just decided it would stop bringing in student teachers from nearby Arizona Christian University.
When I go to Arizona Christian University's website, and I'm taking this directly from their website, above all else, be committed to Jesus Christ, accomplishing his will and advancing his kingdom on earth as in heaven. Part of their values is influence, engage, and transform the culture with truth by promoting the biblically informed values that are foundational to Western civilization, including the centrality of family, traditional, sexual morality, and lifelong marriage between one man and one woman. I want to know how bringing people from an institution that is ingrained in their values that will very directly, one, impact 3 of your board members who are a part of the LGBTQ community. We have added our pronouns at the dais as solidarity to let our LGBT community know that we stand in making sure that they feel protected. Are we only performing performative solidarity, or are we going to dig deep and actually look at the partnerships that we're doing?
And that's not going over well with parents like Kaylin Foggy.
Teachers are stretched so thin right now. They're doing the best that they can, and to turn people away based on deeply personal held religious beliefs is just wrong.
I just don't believe that that belongs in schools.
School board members stated during last week's meeting that the district's values don't align with ACU, an institution that instructs students and faculty to spread their religious beliefs and requires them to sign a statement of faith that has explicit anti-LGBTQ principles.
Very anti-trans, very anti-LGBT.
Gene Woodbury with Equality Arizona says ACU's core beliefs clearly violate the school district's non-discrimination policies.
This isn't about excluding anyone of any faith from being a teacher in a public school. It's about the legal problem of having a contract with a religious institution.
Arizona Christian University sent us this statement. The school board's recent decision to ban ACU students from serving as student teachers was done for one reason only: our university's commitment to our Christian convictions. That's wrong. It's unlawful, and it will only hurt the district's students. More than 100 student teachers have served in the Washington Elementary School District over the past 5 years. We have not heard about the school board severing ties with any other institutions.
Knowing this first, that scoffers will come in the last days, walking according to their own lust, and saying, Where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation. Warning. This next clip contains a joke pertaining to our Lord and Savior. If you do not wish to hear the joke, I suggest you skip 1 minute.
The ease with which that people insult Christians in this country was there for everyone to see. Last night on the project on Channel 10, a comedian you've never heard of who's doing his best to shock everyone, decided to make a particularly offensive joke. One that, of course, was about Christians.
I get a whole bunch on TikTok coming at me from a religious angle, right? Which I think is hilarious because queer people, LGBTQIA+, predate any idea of God. We're present in the animal kingdom. You know, if you go prior to the Cambrian explosion, I'm sure there were 2 amoebas listening to Lady Gaga doing poppers and banging away. So I think it's hilarious when someone messages me and says, you have to accept Jesus' love or you will burn in hell, because I love Jesus. I love any man who can get nailed for 3 days straight and come back for more.
I know Christians don't fight back. Would we get that same lazy laughter if the joke was about Mohammed, or a joke about Aboriginal smoking ceremonies, other aspects of Aboriginal religion?
Can you imagine, Andrew, if that was the case? This would be dominating the headlines all day. But the suspects are pretty outspoken when there's situations like this in the media, are incredibly quiet because they think this sort of commentary is okay. And I question also why the project is allowing content like this at family time. This is dinner time. This show runs from 6:30 to 7:30 when families are often sitting in front of the TV watching, you know, what's on at the news or whatever program, and they're being subjected to this type of crude content. Channel 10 executive producer and staff at the project should really be questioning how this content got to air. And there are now actual claims that there could be protests out the front of Channel 10 by various groups such as Christian groups because they're so disgusted with these comments.
Oh, well, look, I just don't see the merit of that. That's just ridiculous. And the horse laughter, they've got no taste. They don't show any moral example.
The first openly transgender Lutheran bishop from San Francisco is suing the church. The lawsuit alleges harassment, defamation, and whistleblowing retaliation.
KTV's Brooke Giroux sat down with the bishop and his lawyer about the message that they hope this lawsuit sends.
People of God, I present to you your new bishop, the Reverend Dr. Megan Rohr.
The first openly transgender bishop only served the Evangelical Lutheran Church in that role for a year. Megan Rohr resigned. He was accused of racism after firing a lower-ranking reverend.
The church who had directed me to take those actions could have easily have corrected the record and instead put forth misinformation on purpose.
Now Rohr's firing back with a lawsuit alleging he was forced out, claiming a hostile work environment and harassment, whistleblowing retaliation, and defamation, saying he received constant violent threats, was subject to a concerted hate campaign calling him a racist, and repeatedly misgendered 44 separate times.
It's been really baffling to me the level of explicit transphobia that I've experienced in my journey as a bishop.
Now he says he's standing up after being put down and discriminated by both clergy and congregates.
When it happens in your church community, when it happens because you want to pray and because you want to be at church, it hurts in an extra special way.
The Sierra Pacific Synod of the church has not commented, but Rohr's attorney says the harassment claim is on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity.
It is outrageous in this day and age that someone as incredible and devoted as Reverend Rohr would be treated as egregiously as the church has treated him.
Pushing for change in a church that says it welcomes and respects all people.
I have a very strong faith still, but my faith in the church isn't as strong.
hoping to repair his reputation while sending a message of inclusion.
Let's turn now to those warnings aimed at the White House from top leaders in China, including its president. And they are ratcheting up the tensions between the two nations amid growing concern about China's potential involvement in the war in Ukraine. NBC's Molly Hunter has that story with us. And Molly, these are rare. These are direct messages. How seriously are they being received?
These are rare, these are direct, and today, for the second day in a row, we heard very similar comments. So Beijing's new foreign minister doubling down, warning the U.S. and China are hurtling towards what he calls direct confrontation and conflict. Now, fiery comments from Foreign Minister Qin Gang underlined the deepening tension between, of course, the two world's biggest economies. This echoed sharp comments from China's leader Xi Jinping yesterday, blaming Washington for these deteriorating relationships. Now, speaking in a legislative session, it was according and reported by China's state TV, she accused Washington of trying to fence China in.
Combative words from the new Chinese foreign minister, Qin Gang, telling reporters at his first ever press conference that the US needs to change its distorted attitude towards China or face conflict and confrontation. The foreign minister also defending Beijing's close ties with Russia. He said Washington had been engaging in suppression and containment of China rather than engaging in fair, rule-based competition. Let's take a listen to what he had to tell reporters earlier.
If the United States does not hit the brakes but continues to speed down the wrong path, no amount of guardrails can prevent derailing or a crash, and there will surely be conflict and confrontation.
Take a look at what exactly he said. He said Western countries led by the United States have implemented all-round containment, encirclement, and suppression of China, which has brought unprecedented severe challenges to our country's development. Now, Hoda, as you mentioned, these are strong, rare words from China's leader. Of course, all of this comes as Beijing strongly denies the U.S. allegation that it is considering giving Moscow lethal aid to use in the war in Ukraine.
Turning now to the war in Ukraine, where the focus of the fighting right now is in the city of Bakhmut, nearly destroyed by months of attacks. Imtiaz Tayeb is there from eastern Ukraine.
As the battlefield turns from ice into mud, there's still a chill in the air as we're taken to one of the Ukrainian military's most vital lookout points, close to Bakhmut. It's where we meet Ishak, who keeps a close eye on Russian positions below. What's the biggest threat facing you right now? Our biggest fear is artillery, he says, because it can hit us at any time. You don't know when, where, or how. We're not allowed to show you the vantage point from here over fears of giving away this location to Russian forces who are just on the ground there. But we can see Bakhmut in the distance. It's just around 1.5 miles away, and you can see that it's smoking and burning from here. Kremlin-backed forces say they're close to encircling this charred and ruined city as they stand accused of committing horrific atrocities here. International outrage is growing following the apparent Russian execution of this Ukrainian soldier. Glory to Ukraine, were his final words before being shot. It's a defiance Masik, who's just returned from Bakhmut, understands. Lots of us have been killed, he says, but this is our land, and we must keep fighting. At a nearby location, deep in the woods, we meet up with members of a tank unit who have also experienced the horrors of Bakhmut firsthand. This video shows them taking a direct hit from Russian fire. Vladislav was driving the tank at the time.
Are you worried that Bakhmut will fall to the Russians? Yes.
Yes.
Look, he says, if the Russians take Bakhmut, then Ukraine will be at a serious breaking point.
And it shall happen in that day that I will make Jerusalem a very heavy stone for all peoples. All who will heave it away will surely be cut into pieces, though all nations of the earth are gathered against it.
As Israel celebrates the Purim holiday, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu invoked the Bible to reiterate Israel's commitment to defending itself.
The head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, raised alarms in Israel during a visit to Iran over the weekend. At a joint press conference with Iran's Atomic Energy Organization director, Grossi said, "I think any military attack on a nuclear facility is outlawed. is out of the normative structures that we abide by. In response, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel has every right to defend itself against a nuclear Iran.
Rafael Grossi is a worthy gentleman who said something unworthy.
Grossi was in Tehran after it was revealed that particles of uranium enriched to near weapons grade were detected recently at an Iranian facility. The discovery raised concern that Iran could make a nuclear bomb very soon. Iran says it has no interest in nuclear weapons, but regularly threatens to wipe Israel off the map. Israel has always said that it will not allow Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon.
Against which law? Is Iran, which openly calls for our destruction, permitted to defend the destructive weapons that would slaughter us? Are we permitted to defend ourselves? It is clear that we are, and it is clear that we will do so. I say this because nothing will deter us from defending our country and preventing our enemies from eliminating the state of the Jews.
U.S. Joint Chiefs Chairman General Mark Milley met with Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant last week. Gallant said ongoing cooperation is required in order to prevent Iran from gaining a nuclear weapon. Netanyahu's comments came as Israelis and Jews around the world prepared to celebrate Purim.
We are on the eve of Purim. 2,500 years ago, an enemy arose in Persia who sought to destroy the Jews. They did not succeed then, neither will they succeed today.
Purim, described in the book of Esther, celebrates how God used Esther to prevent a plot against the Jewish people in Persia. Haman, a high-ranking Persian official, tricked the king into signing a death warrant for all the Jews, not knowing that Queen Esther was Jewish. Esther's favor and courage to approach the king saved the Jewish people, leading to Haman's condemnation and death. Israelis celebrate the holiday by retelling the biblical story, attending costume parties, and eating special pastries.
Salwa weighs only 6 kilograms, even though she's 9 years old. She lives in Yemen and is a victim of war.
She has malnutrition. The doctor said that she must stay in the hospital for 3 months to be treated, but we could not because we do not have the necessary expenses to buy milk and biscuits because we have nothing.
Like hundreds of other Yemenis, Salwa and her family live in Al Khadish camp. It's located in the Hajj governorate in northern Yemen and shelters those who've been forced from their homes by conflict. But life here is tough. Families are crowded inside these tiny shelters made of sticks and straw. Water is hard to get, and there's no sanitation. People are forced to search through rubbish dumps to find food and anything that'll help them survive.
I am looking for plastic cans to sell. I have a child who does not go to school. He and I go to work like this. My husband is disabled at home. If we eat in the morning, we will not have dinner. And if we have dinner, we will not have lunch. We fled our region and we are here. Our condition is very bad and we have nothing.
Every family in this camp is suffering from extreme poverty. They go out searching for anything they might come across, or for a neighbour who might have some food to share. In other camps, the organisations distribute stuff, but here they give neither food nor soap nor water containers. We have some worn-out blankets that are 2 years old. It's tragic.
Camps like this one are spread across Yemen. It's one of the poorest countries in the world, and the civil war has made people's lives worse. 8 years ago, Houthi militias backed by Iran marched from the north and took the capital Sana'a. The elected government was forced into exile, and an alliance of Arab countries launched an air bombardment campaign to restore the ousted government. But the conflict hasn't stopped. It's caused the death of hundreds of thousands of civilians and forced millions to flee their homes. The United Nations describes it as the world's worst humanitarian crisis. It says 2.3 million children under the age of 5 don't have enough food, and 400,000 of them are suffering from severe malnutrition.